Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Ishtar Channel podcast. You're here with us both. It's not often we can come together in the physical.
No, it's really
these.
nice, isn't it? I
Isn't
like
it
to sit
lovely?
here together. It's nice.
Much
Yeah,
prefer that. We
yeah,
normally
than doing
do
it
them
on Zoom or something.
Mm.
Yeah, so yeah.
So welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to have a conversation. We've put a couple of questions out there, didn't we? And
We did, yeah.
some students and general public came back and asked if we would discuss a couple of different topics. And the one that we chose for today was around relationships.
Yes, which is a big topic, an important topic, one that affects all of us
It does.
on some level.
Yes.
Yeah,
We're all in relationship, either to ourselves or another.
Whatever. Yeah, with spirit, with source, with each other, with the world. Yeah, we're all in relationships. So relationships sort of important.
Important. So probably a number of different aspects that we could go into. But why don't we begin by having a little bit of an understanding about the consciousness within a relationship?
Yeah, that's a good place to start. Huh? I think so, yeah. Because, we get very confused, Joe, at times about what a relationship is.
Mm.
We think a relationship is me or you,
Mm-hmm.
and so the relationship isn't going to work if you're not in balance or I'm not in balance. Yeah. So, if Joe, you're not in balance, so our relationship's not working. Yeah. So
it's all about me.
It is, of course it is. But the thing is, what we don't understand is the relationship is not about one person or another. Because a relationship is a creation. It's something that you are creating with another person. And you might be creating it with several people, family, a relationship in family is related to perhaps two partners plus children. Or family could be children plus mum and dad or grandparents or whatever it is, whatever your creation is, whoever you're including in your relationship. So you really have to understand that relationship is something that everyone is creating together. And I think we need to remember that word together. So it's therefore it is a co-creation. So people are creating something together. So let's come back to the basics of energy, understanding what is a creation. It's always about energy.
Yes.
What is the energy we're bringing into this? Yeah. So, and it's not about what one person's energy is doing. It's about everybody's energy. So whatever your relationship, whether it's being with yourself, whether it's being with another person, whether it's being with children and another person, or it grows from there, or if it's a business relationship, it's all about how many people are in that partnership in business. If you're in a team, working in a team, it's all about everybody in the team. It's not about the team leader or one other person. It's about everybody, how they're all flowing and contributing in that relationship. So how are you all choosing to create your relationship? How are you all co-creating? In other words, what energy is everybody putting into that project labeled relationship?
So I've taken something from you, what you've just said there. There's the I, the we, the all. So the consciousness of the I, and then that extends to, first of all, the we, the we consciousness of your own group consciousness.
Yeah.
And I feel really guided to perhaps just speak first of all to the group consciousness that we often miss, because we think of ourselves as just an I from the personality of what we're bringing. So can you expand a bit onto the group?
Funnily, I'm running a retreat of just about that in September in Glastonbury. So just thought I'd
come and meet us in Glastonbury.
So in September, you'll find out about it on my website. But it's all about, coming out of the I and into the we, and it's understanding there really is no I. Because even when you're talking about yourself, you're talking about all the components of you, all the different parts of you, all the different parts of your consciousness. And from, the lowest vibration to the highest vibration. So you're always considering all those parts of you, the child you, the shadow you, the active you, the emotional you, the mental you, all of those parts of you, the higher self you, all of that is you. And there's a we in that. because there is no I. And so holding that relationship with self is probably the most important relationship you are ever going to learn to create. And it is a co-creation because you, your personality, you that's sitting here listening at this moment, can't create that on your own. To connect with the all of you, you actually need to speak to the all of you and work with the all of you and co-create with the all of you and listen to the all of you. So it's a co-creation within yourself. And I firmly believe that if you choose to learn how to co-create with the many parts of you and accept that there are many parts of you, then it's much easier for you to have a relationship with others. Now, having a relationship with others that is based on honoring yourself, it's based on understanding that you're there to walk beside each other. You're not there to merge with each other. It's understanding that you're not there to please each other. You're not there to make each other happy because that's not within your power. But you're there to contribute energy that will support or, you know, whoever you're co-creating with in whatever way that might be, but not in sacrificing yourself. Yeah. So, you know, there is that understanding of that. And so you're not codependent on another part of you or another person. You are co-creating with that person. And the thing is, of course, how much is that person willing to co-create with you?
So one of the things I love the way you describe a relationship when that extends now beyond
yourself,
beyond myself. Let's say with you and I, we, and this is where we get confused, we are not the relationship. It's this ball of energy between the two of us that we individually are contributing to.
That's right.
That creates that relationship.
Yes.
So can you speak a bit more to that?
And that requires some time, doesn't it? Some conscious input. And I believe it requires honesty and an ability to talk to each other and to listen and to assume, you know, that we both have something to give here. And what is that? And we both have something to receive as well from the relationship. And sometimes that has to be put into the pot, if you will.
Yes.
Percolate for a while, you know, and then can be drawn out, can't it?
Yes.
So it's not an instant thing, and it needs a contribution from both sides. When that relationship doesn't work is when one person is not contributing and is maybe distant and over here and not putting anything in. So the other person's putting everything in. And so that relationship's going to wobble, you know, because the creation, you just need to remember it's a creation, it's energy you're creating. So if there's only one person putting into it, then you're going to have a wobbly relationship because the other person's not present. The energy, the consciousness of the other person's not present.
So when we start to navigate things like disagreement, conflict, you know, incoherence, that misalignment, you know, that knocking up of energy, you know, we call it the law of reflection. That's right. In our teachings.
Or
so
even resonance when we're repelling things.
Yes. What guidance would you give to navigating that? Because my first thought is, well, okay, if I am in the co-creation of a conflict, because, you know, you can be in conflict with yourself and it not involve anyone else.
That's right. And that can be very challenging. Yes.
Or, of course, we can be in conflict with another and that does involve somebody else. So let's, for this argument's sake, say it's with another. If we are going to look to meet that energy, because now it's a ball of conflicting energy that's being experienced between two people.
Well, it may be. Hold on, because there's the energy of the relationship. Okay. Now the energy of the relationship might have lots of, you know, loving, supportive energy and a lot of sharing energy that's been put in, and there's lots of good energy there. So that's a great foundation. So when conflict comes up, and where does conflict come from? conflict comes from misunderstandings
Yes.
and from differences, where people often want the other person to be the same or to think the same. And of course, they don't. We don't. We're individuals.
So differences and expectations.
Well, differences. But then, of course, where do differences come from? Expectations. So we have expectations, and we love expectations in our relationships, don't we? We really have great expectations.
Well, we love them to be met.
Yes, we do. We want, because this is why we're with this person, because they're there, to make us happy, aren't they? Which they can't do, but they're there to make us happy. And then, of course, when they're not making us happy, then we're not very happy with them because our expectation hasn't been met. They might be there to provide for us. We want them to provide for us, whether that might be we want them to cook all our meals and make them wonderful, or we want them to iron our pajamas, or we want them to provide financial support for us. And of course, when they don't, that's going to create a lot of conflict, you know. When people don't meet the expectations that we have, we'll always create conflict because we're disappointed. We're upset. Why won't you meet my expectations? Why won't you do what I want you to do? Is what we do.
When you say it like that, it sounds ridiculous that that's what we do.
It's what we do, isn't it?
But
yeah,
you know, when we break it down like that, and we reflect on it, there was a part of me right now going, how silly is that?
but it is, and it
But
is
that,
silly, yeah.
know.
And while we don't understand that, you know, particularly look in relationships with ourselves, with others.
Yes.
Firstly, if we're having conflict with a relationship with someone else, invariably it'll be because you're having some sort of conflict in a part of you. Yeah. If you're angry, if you're upset, if you're disappointed about what someone is or isn't doing, then you will definitely have a conflict within yourself because you're angry, disappointed in a part of you that's not meeting your needs or not doing what you want that part of you to do, and you're not listening to that part of you. Yeah. So it's the same thing with someone else. It's just that mirror showing you that. So understanding that. So you can go on projecting that to someone else, but it's a very good idea to not keep putting that into the relationship, because it's just going to make that relationship break apart, to wobble, to get distorted, whatever it is. Firstly, so let's have a look at the expectation we're holding of ourselves. I should be better. I should not be like that. I should know better. I should be able to do that. Why can't I make myself happy? Why do I need them to make me happy? Yeah. Why am I making myself sad? You know, why am I judging myself? You know, I should be better than that. That critical self. We all have that critical self. It's a really good part of ourselves, isn't it? Very strong part of ourselves. So all of those things come up. So, and that's really the conversation that we're having with ourselves, but invariably we're projecting it onto the other person.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it creates a big wobble in your relationship, you know. So what I say to people is, let's look at expectations in relationships. Yeah. The biggest expectation, of course, is who you want the other person to be for you, whatever that is. Are they your romantic lover? You know, I had my beautiful partner I had for off and on. He was off and on for 30-something years. Loved him to pieces, and I wanted him to be my romantic partner. He didn't have a romantic bone in his body. I loved him dearly, but he didn't know the idea of romance. He couldn't do romance. He couldn't do anything romantic, which for my Scorpio self was very difficult.
Devastating.
It was very hard. And I struggled with that for a long, long time until I came into acceptance of the fact that no matter what I did, no matter how much my expectation was, it was never going to be met because he didn't know how to do romance. So I had to stop reading romance novels. It was really to let go of my expectation. But, you know, but seriously, coming back to that, it's really understanding, letting go of your attachment to what you want the other person to be or to do for you. Because as soon as you put that on them, project it on them in your relationship, what happens is there's this unwritten contract that falls in the energy of your relationship.
Yeah.
And energetically, it's always there. And every time they don't do it, there's this pull, you know, and you're disappointed. So if you're doing that for 10 years with somebody or more, then you're going to live your life. You're going to be very disappointed in your relationships, and it's not going to flow very well for you.
Then we start to harbor resentment.
Yep. Anger, frustration,
Hurt.
you know, doesn't love me, or she doesn't love me enough to do this for me.
We feed our karmic stories.
We do feed our karmic stories, and then on it goes. And the interesting thing with all of that is that most of the time you have never expressed this expectation openly and honestly to the other person. Yep. You've never said, you know, I want you to be my romantic partner.
Because, you know, in saying that, I often wonder, you know, and I take myself as an example, it's not until you start to awaken in your relationship, firstly with yourself, that you're actually becoming aware of these expectations you have of the other person that you actually didn't realize you had.
Yes. And they do change too. Yeah. So it's really important to become aware of these expectations and to realize them, and how logical they are, and how, you know, can they really be fulfilled? I mean, the expectation, my partner should make me happy. I mean, that is an expectation that will never be filled. Your partner cannot make you happy. No one can make you happy. It's up to you to choose happiness. You know, so that's a big one.
What questions, what exercise would you give somebody to do? Is it as simple as sitting down and sitting and asking yourself, what expectation do I have of
Yes, it is
Sam,
that simple.
Jack?
Yeah, and I've done this for years with couples, particularly with couples, but with lots of people. Sit down and really observe what your expectations are. What do you want from that person? Yeah. And then write them down. And the masters have always said, you know, review that at least once a year, have a review. And then what you do when you've written them down, get the two of you, if there's two of you, or if there's four of you, or if it's a business arrangement and you haven't got a legal contract where it's very clearly, you know, explained. And sometimes you need to read that again, even in a, you know, in a business arrangement, just to remind yourself of what you really agreed to. Because sometimes we'll run the story of what we think we've agreed to, and then we actually haven't agreed to that at all. And that happens in marriages and relationships as well. But get each of you to sit down and write down those expectations, what you want from the other person, what you want from them, what you want them to do. You know, do you want them to take the garbage bin out every Wednesday night on garbage night? And if they don't, they mustn't love you. Is that part of your expectation? Seriously, I know people who have done that. Seriously. Do you want them to put the toilet seat down because it drives you crazy? And obviously they're not honoring and loving you because they won't do what you're asking them to do. Do you want them to go out in the rain and get you your croissants every morning? You know, whatever it might be, write it down and then swap. And then look at it and tick what you will do for the other person, and also what you won't do. And then have a conversation around that. And just say, you know, I'm sorry, but I'm not going out in the rain to get your croissants at 6 a.m. in the morning. Why not? You know, it's not because I don't love you, it's because I don't want to go out in the rain, you know. And, you know, I mean, the other thing is, you know, if we have expectations like you will complete me. When we are together, then I am complete. No, your partner is not there to complete you. You are there to complete you. And your partner actually can never complete you, no matter how much you don't want to hear me saying this. It is not true. They can't complete you. That is a very codependent relationship. And it's asking the impossible, and I guarantee you will always be disappointed.
And if you would like to dive more into that specific aspect of a relationship, then please go and tune into the podcast we did on the twin flame.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's a really important one to do. Yeah.
You addressed that beautifully in that.
Yeah. Really important one to do. And so, you know, expectations, I feel, are one of the things that we don't honor, we don't observe, we don't acknowledge in our relationships. And they're the one thing that are going to break up any relationship, no matter what it is. Yep. So, and it's even like father and child or mother and child, get your child. Very good to do with teenage children. Write down your expectations of them, get them to write down their expectations of you, like pick me up after soccer or after the dance at midnight or whatever it might be. And whether or not you're willing to agree to that and whether or not they're willing to agree to yours, and just have a look and see what the balance is here.
Yeah.
Because once again, that relationship needs to be in balance. It doesn't need to be one side is doing all the dishes and bringing in the money, doing everything, and the other side is doing nothing. Because that will not make for a relationship, because it isn't a relationship. There is no exchange. There is no co-creation. And a relationship is a co-creation. There's something you do together. It is not something one person can do on their own.
And it's not also, in my experience, it's also not always about 50-50 either.
Oh, no, it doesn't have to be 50-50.
Which I think a lot of people can confuse again. Yeah. They try to constantly look at how balanced is my relationship, and they're doing it based on, again, their own perception of what
that's right.
That is. But it's not, you can have, as you said before, if one person in that relationship is lacking capacity, but if that's communicated, then the other person's able to step in and pick up on that.
Yeah. But perhaps they're lacking capacity in one area. Maybe they can pick it up somewhere else, so it doesn't have to be 50-50 on every item.
That's it.
But it means that if one person's going, well, I'd really like you to put more energy into this, and the other person says, well, actually, I don't have the capacity to do that.
Yeah.
But I could put it into this.
Yeah.
And that's the discussion, and that's co-creation. And that's what's important, because there needs to be balance. It doesn't need to be this, top heavy or one or the other, but it's just a matter of where that balance is created. That's what it's about, where the energy is put in.
And being really mindful, these are my experiences in relationships, through self-observation and awareness. Where is it that you're unconsciously, until you're conscious of it, keeping a score sheet? Keeping that balance.
Yes, score sheets. Score sheets are interesting, aren't they? Yes.
And again, that is always a reflection of where it is that you're keeping a score sheet of yourself.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And how that is being projected again.
Am I doing it right? How you're observing yourself. I mean, it is a real reflection. I mean, every relationship you have will be a complete reflection of what you're doing to yourself and how you are creating with yourself.
Yeah.
That's what relationships about. So have a look at that, because all your relationships will show you that, and that judgment of self then projected onto others is also something that needs to be considered.
So I've got another question for you.
Yeah. What is it? Okay.
So in
we
a relationship,
rehearsed this, by the way. So.
Clearly, but that's the best podcasts aren't rehearsed.
Yeah, that's right.
In relationships, the classic is, and I get this a lot, with clients, they'll ask me, or they'll make the statement, yeah, but I feel like I really need to speak my truth.
Sorry.
So, and that's often, so just, speak to the statement.
Yeah.
But I really feel, that it's time I spoke my truth.
Yeah. And I hear this a lot too, about speaking our truth. But what is our truth that we're speaking? Is our truth our hurt? Are we speaking our hurt? Are we speaking our emotional truth? Are we speaking our beliefs? This is my belief. I want you to know it, What are our disappointment? Are we speaking our disappointment? What is the truth of that? And is it the truth of your relationship with self that you're speaking? Which invariably it is, of course. And sometimes it's really better to go and have a look at that. And instead of going and speaking your truth and, really sort of going out there and speaking your truth, you can go and talk about how you're feeling, perhaps, I'm feeling this or I'm feeling that, but you're not speaking your truth. You're talking about your feeling.
Yeah.
That's not truth, that's feeling. Or I really believe this, but that's not truth. That's a belief, So be careful of speaking truth and demanding that that truth be accepted and honored as truth.
Yeah, labeling it as
because
truth.
it's not truth. It's your opinion, perhaps. It's maybe a potential that you see. It could be lots of things, but is it truth? Is it factual? That's truth. So, and is it divine truth? People talk about going out there and speaking my truth, and I'm going to be the warrior, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to, wave the sword around, and, and I'm going to be the warrior and speak my truth, because it's so brave to go out there and speak my truth. But really what you're speaking is your pain and your hurt most of the time. You're speaking your pain and your hurt, or your anger and your disappointment, your frustration, and none of that is truth.
Or with advocates, they often they're speaking the injustice.
Oh, yes, yeah, injustice in something or other. So, putting that out there as an injustice, but that's from their viewpoint, from their perception.
Yeah.
Be conscious of that. Become conscious. Speaking truth is not something you do unconsciously, but most of the time we do it unconsciously. Speaking truth means going within and really connecting with spirit and getting the guidance for that. And I can tell you right now, spirit will not have a belief that you put forward, because spirit doesn't have beliefs. Won't have any emotion. There'll be no anger, no fear, no injustice, no whatever. There is none. Any emotion we put on spirit is our projection. Yeah. It will not have a right or a wrong. There will be no right or wrong within your truth if it's divine truth, because it doesn't have a right or wrong. So I'm just going to leave you with those three things, because I think they're enough to understand what truth are you really speaking? Are you speaking the truth of your shadows, which is a very common thing? We're speaking the truth of our shadows, or our inner child that's extremely hurt and extremely disappointed, or extremely angry, or extremely fearful. And that's the truth we're often speaking. And, if that's causing you to react right now, you need to take a breath and understand that what's making you angry is some part of your shadow aspect within you that is reacting to what I'm saying right now.
I really remember the lesson in Master's Way, Path of Light, that takes us on a journey of the many levels of truth.
Ah, yes. And there are many levels. Yeah.
And I think that that's really important for us to understand, because I can imagine, I know when I first opened to these teachings, I was, really triggered by, that's not your truth. I'm like, well, actually, yes, that's my experience. That is my truth.
Yes.
And so we can speak to it being a truth of the third dimensional experience. And I think that's, that's important, because we have to come into an acknowledgement of what we are experiencing, but not confusing that experience is your divine truth.
Yeah. And understand too, an experience is not truth, because everyone will have a different response to the same experience. And you'll all say that's truth, but of course, in truth, it's not, because it's simply your perception, your experience. And we can all have that experience, and we'll all see, the dress is green, or the dress is blue, or the dress is yellow, whatever. And we'll all have a different color, because we all experience it differently. And yet we'll think it's truth, but in fact, it's not. It's perception. And of course, we have our experiences are always based on the beliefs that we hold. And our emotions are affected by our beliefs, driven by our beliefs. Are our beliefs truth? No, they're beliefs. They're opinions. They're not truth. So it's important to understand that. And experiences are often a reaction to something. So, you've had this experience, and then you've reacted to it in whatever way you've chosen to react to it. But that's not your truth. That's just how you reacted to it. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that your reaction is what it is, but let's call it what it is. And so in a relationship, also be aware that in all probability, your partner, partners, family, whatever, are unique and individual to you. And we get called to them if it's a romantic relationship. We invariably get called to that partner because we see something in them that we don't have in ourselves, and we quite admire it. It calls to us because we want to touch that, feel that, understand it a little bit better. And so we get pulled to that because it's totally different to us. And then, you know, usually after the first sort of bloom of that love or lust or whatever is worn off in the first 12 months usually, then we want the partner to change to be like us. So whatever we got called to in the first place, we want to ignore that. We've felt it, we've touched it, oh, that's good. Now I want you to be like me, please. I want you to agree with me. I want you to accept my beliefs. I want you to, you know, don't be different. I don't want you to be different because it makes me uncomfortable.
And only be the parts of me that I like.
That, well, yes, definitely not the parts that I don't like. Which, of course, you know, in all partnerships, your partner will hold those parts of you that you don't like because they're there to reflect that to you so you can look at them. And that's when we want to push them away. And yet they're the times when we need to bring them closer. So lots to consider in a relationship.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think that if you take away, I think one of the things to take away from chat now is whether or not perhaps you go and sit and do a little bit of a review of your beliefs, but also, as Ishtar said, most importantly, no matter what that relationship is, intimate other, father, daughter, whatever the dynamic is, go and sit and really ask yourself what expectations you hold over that other person.
Yes.
And write them down, because perhaps you've never done that. And just that process alone will bring a lot of insight.
That's right.
And help you come into more awareness of what and why you're experiencing what you are within that relationship. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jo. That was a great conversation. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. We, as always, we hope that it has touched a part of you to go inward and awaken more of the truth, the divine truth of you. So thank you.